What actions would you take if you possessed it all, wealth, influence, achievement, only to receive the news that your time is limited to 8 months? That's precisely the situation faced by Ethan Whitmore, a prosperous bachelor from Boston who constructed an empire, yet returned to an empty home, devoid of family, friends, and filled only with the sound of silence and a clock counting down. On a chilly, overcast afternoon, just after hearing the news that would change everything, Ethan meandered through the streets of Boston, feeling adrift, emotionally drained, and on the brink of surrender. But then he noticed her, a young woman, barely upright, her clothes drenched, her arms encircling a trembling little boy on a snowy park bench. While many would have simply passed by, Ethan's next move transformed not only his own life but also hers, and most crucially, the life of a child yearning for compassion. This narrative transcends mere themes of sickness or hardship. This narrative explores the profound impact of a single choice, illustrating how acts of kindness can create a lasting legacy. It follows a terminally ill man as he discovers the essence of truly living in the concluding moments of his journey. Remain with us, for what unfolds next will shatter your heart and mend it simultaneously. Ethan Whitmore remained motionless on the steps of Massachusetts General Hospital. His tailored coat fluttered gently in the biting wind, yet he appeared oblivious to the chill. The sky over Boston loomed, thick and gray, bearing down like an inevitable burden. Snow began to fall, delicate yet sharp flakes that stung like tiny shards of ice upon his skin. The world around him moved forward, unmoved by his presence. Pedestrians huddled, shoulders drawn in, gazing downward as they navigated around grimy slush puddles and the biting chill of November air. Yet, Ethan remained still, unmoving. His right hand gripped something within his coat pocket, a file, a verdict, a death sentence. At most 8 months, no surgery, no possibility. His illness had advanced beyond recovery. The oncologist's voice reverberated in his thoughts like a broken record. Ethan Whitmore, a billionaire and CEO, is a self-made individual who owns vast real estate empires, innovative tech startups, and one of the largest investment firms on the East Coast. A man residing in a penthouse in Manhattan and a brownstone in Beacon Hill, yet he is also a man devoid of a wife, children, or anyone to reach out to at night, save for his assistant. What was the purpose of it all? With a smooth motion, Daniel, the young driver, brought the Bentley to a halt at the curb before stepping out to gracefully open the door. Ethan remained steadfast. "You can go home now, Daniel," Ethan said softly. "Enjoy a well-deserved break tonight." Daniel appeared perplexed. "However, Mr. Whitmore, you have a board meeting scheduled in an hour." I commanded, "Depart." The engine hummed softly as the car merged back into the flow of traffic, leaving Ethan solitary on the frigid sidewalk. Gradually, as if navigating through a thick mist, he made his way into the throng of people. His leather shoes splashed through puddles while he wandered past closed cafes and flickering streetlights. His entire existence had operated like a finely tuned instrument, focused on precision, profit, and power, and now, after 8 months, that was all there was. His dominion was powerless to protect him. There is no sum that can purchase an opportunity to start anew. He reflected on the summer he had missed, the vacation he delayed, just one more quarter, the woman he never found time to cherish, the dog he didn't adopt due to countless meetings, the home that resonated with solitude. All of it now devoid of significance, and then a sound, a child's voice. "Mommy, what is that man up to?" Ethan pivoted. On a bench just off the sidewalk near Boston Common, partially blanketed in snow, a young woman sat holding a small boy close to her. They appeared to be shivering from the cold. The young child, perhaps around 5, donned a worn sweater, and his tiny red mittens dangled from strings as if they had been handed down through too many generations. His cheeks bore the harsh marks of the wind, while the woman, unmistakably his mother, appeared pale, trembling, and emaciated. They were not merely cold. They were filled with desperation. He paused for a moment, then moved in closer. "Pardon me," he said softly. "It's absolutely frigid. Shouldn't you two be heading home?" The woman glanced up, her eyes filled with caution and a hint of defiance. "Why do you care?" Her voice held a raspy defiance, yet it trembled with exhaustion. Ethan was on the verge of turning back. This was not his concern. But then the boy gazed up at him, his big brown eyes wide with an emotion that transcended mere curiosity. It was hope, a silent, yearning hope. "What's your name, kiddo?" Ethan inquired, bending down a bit. "Liam," the boy murmured. "That's a powerful name," Ethan remarked, a gentle smile gracing his lips. "Liam, do you feel like eating?" The boy glanced at his mother, his eyes silently asking for her approval to respond. She remained silent. Her silence stood as a fortress built from pride, fear, and shame. Ethan directed his gaze toward her. "When did you last eat?" No answer. He softened his voice. "I'm not here to pass judgment. I just can't leave. Not tonight." "Then stay," she replied, holding back her tears. "But don't act as if you get it." "I don't," Ethan confessed. "But I want to try." Silence hung between them for a moment. Then the boy trembled fiercely, and that was the turning point. Ethan rose to his feet, extending a hand. "Join me. Let's embrace the warmth. Find a bite to eat. Just, allow me to assist." She fixed her gaze on his hand, then returned her attention to her son. Gradually, she inclined her head in agreement. The stroll was leisurely. Her steps wavered uncertainly. Ethan held Liam close in his embrace. The boy was as light as a feather, almost weightless. They summoned a cab and made their way to Chestnut Hill Mall. First stop, cozy attire. Ethan purchased a fleece-lined coat and sturdy boots for the woman, who eventually revealed that her name was Grace. For Liam, a parka adorned with tiny dinosaur prints and a hat that brought forth his first genuine laugh. Next, the brownstone, Ethan's grand residence on Beacon Hill. Lofty ceilings, polished marble floors, and a fireplace crackling with warmth. All thanks to a timely call to Mrs. Reynolds, his devoted housekeeper. Liam's eyes widened in surprise. "Mommy, is this a train station?" Grace chuckled softly, the first genuine laugh she'd experienced in days. Dinner consisted of a hearty stew and freshly baked bread. Liam eagerly consumed his meal. Grace, on the other hand, took her time, savoring each bite as if she were not used to such indulgence. Later, with Liam peacefully resting on her lap and the gentle crackle of the fire filling the room, Ethan inquired softly, "Tell me, Grace, how did you find yourself out there in the snow?" Her eyes fell. She paused, uncertainty flickering in her mind. Then, with a measured pace, she started to articulate her thoughts. A child in foster care without a family. A man professed his love for her, only to betray her by taking her home. No funds, no destination. It was only her and Liam, fleeing from peril. Ethan paid attention. He remained silent, yet a fissure formed within him. He perceived not merely a woman in distress, but a resilient spirit, a mother battling fiercely with all her strength for her child. As she concluded, a heavy stillness enveloped the space. Then Ethan rose and tenderly cradled Liam in his embrace. "You will remain here tonight," he declared. "Both of you." She gazed at him, taken aback. "This isn't about pity," he stated. "You've shown resilience for quite some time. Allow someone to be your strength for now." With that, Ethan lifted Liam and took him upstairs to the sunniest, most inviting guest room in the house. Grace trailed behind, caught in a haze of uncertainty, questioning if this was an act of kindness or merely a figment of her imagination. The following morning, sunlight streamed into the brownstone through the lofty windows. Ethan lingered in his study, gazing at the frost-laden trees that adorned the garden. Years had passed since he last woke to the sound of laughter echoing through his home. But today, a soft giggle of a child filled the air, and it wasn't coming from the television. Truly happened. In the kitchen, Mrs. Reynolds, a figure of authority with a nurturing touch, sat sipping tea while Grace moved around energetically, eager to lend a hand. She donned the new coat Ethan had purchased, now accompanied by an apron that Mrs. Reynolds had firmly insisted she wear. "You don't have to do anything," Ethan said as he entered the room, taken aback by the aroma of fresh apple pie filling the air. "I know," Grace replied gently, "but I wanted to. You've done more than enough." She turned to face him, and in the soft morning light, she appeared younger, lighter, as if the burden she bore had eased, if only a little. Liam sat on the couch, his legs crossed, meticulously constructing a small tower out of Lego bricks. He glanced upward and smiled brightly. "Uncle Ethan." Ethan was taken aback. The term surprised him. Uncle. Decades had passed since anyone had referred to him as family. "Are you really okay with that?" Grace inquired, observing his demeanor. Ethan offered a smile. "Absolutely, more than okay." After breakfast, Ethan proceeded to make some calls. He was well connected throughout the city with ties to lawyers, police officers, and realtors alike. He was determined to ensure that Grace's situation did not remain unaddressed. By day's end, he had tracked down Ryan Carter, the individual who deceived Grace and unlawfully sold her room with counterfeit documents. Ethan's longtime college friend, who has become a detective, assured him that a thorough investigation would be initiated. A glimmer of hope remained that they might reclaim some of Grace's misappropriated funds and bring Ryan to justice for his deceitful actions. Upon hearing Ethan's words, Grace felt tears welling up in her eyes. "Why are you doing all this for us?" she asked. "Because I've spent my entire life building towers of money," he replied softly. "Yet, they never allowed me to feel truly alive. You and Liam, you brought life back into this house." That evening, they gathered in the warm den. Liam nestled beside Mrs. Reynolds, enjoying cookies. Grace and Ethan sat by the fire, their voices soft and inviting. They reminisced about childhood memories, cherished songs, and the weight of adult responsibilities that had obscured them. Ethan discovered that Grace had a passion for drawing as a child, yet lacked the means to pursue it. He vowed to get her a sketchbook the following day. And Grace discovered that Ethan had once aspired to be a storyteller, before spreadsheets and investors consumed his existence. He envisioned bringing a novel to life. "You still can," she said. As the days unfolded, a gentle transformation took place. Ethan's health found a moment of balance, and he began to feel a strength he hadn't experienced in months. The headaches faded, and laughter flowed more freely. Each morning, he strolled through the garden with Liam, playfully tossing snowballs and sharing tales of dragons and spaceships. He even welcomed a giant Newfoundland named Bear into their lives, who swiftly became Liam's closest companion. On a warm spring day, they set out for a shopping trip. Ethan selected new clothes for Grace, opting for simple and soft pieces that would ensure her comfort. For Liam, he chose a vibrant red bicycle. Liam let out a delighted squeal upon seeing it. "Is this truly mine?" "Absolutely," Ethan replied, playfully tousling the boy's hair. "But only if you swear to show me how to ride it again." Laughter filled the air. Evenings held a certain enchantment. At times, they would bake cookies, while on other nights, they engaged in spirited board game battles. Sometimes, Ethan would read to Liam at bedtime, with Grace silently observing from the doorway, her hand resting over her heart. One evening, as Liam began to fall asleep, he posed a question that took Ethan by surprise. "Uncle Ethan, are you like my grandpa now?" Ethan felt a constriction in his throat. Grace stood still in the hallway, anticipation hanging in the air. He approached, knelt next to the bed and said, "I think I'd like that, Liam. Would you?" Liam gave a slight nod. "Yeah, all my friends have grandpas. You'd be the best one." That night, Ethan wept softly in his room, not from sorrow, but from a profound sense of thankfulness. For the first time in many years, he felt liberated from the burden of counting his days. He experienced a profound sense of fulfillment, as if he were finally embracing his true self. He penned a letter, a testament of sorts. He designated Grace as the legal guardian of all his possessions, in the event that anything were to befall him. And most importantly, he chose Liam as his heir, not out of pity, but out of love. When he shared this with Grace, she was left without words. "We're not your family," she whispered. "You already are," Ethan replied, reaching out to take her hand. Summer arrived gradually in Boston that year, akin to a soft sigh released after a prolonged winter. From his sunroom, Ethan observed the flowers blossoming in the garden, as warm rays streamed through the glass, casting playful shadows on the hardwood floor. Yet, he felt his energy beginning to wane once more. The illness, which had lingered in the shadows for an eternity, was finally making its presence known. The headaches resurfaced, and the fatigue settled in more profoundly. Yet this time Ethan faced it without fear. In the past year, he experienced more than he had in all his previous years combined. Each morning, Liam would quietly enter his room, bringing with him a fresh drawing or a whimsical tale from preschool. Occasionally, it involved bears chasing squirrels. At other moments, it revolved around a fresh word he discovered or a dream that had visited him. "Uncle Ethan, do you believe dreams can become reality if you sketch them often enough?" Liam inquired one morning. Ethan beamed and responded, "They can, particularly if you envision them with your heart." Grace sat next to them, her eyes reflecting a calm resilience. Her sketches had completely occupied an entire notebook. Ethan had purchased 3 additional ones for her. She had unearthed a fragment of her being she believed was gone for good. In the waning days of July, they embarked on a journey to the coast, Santa Monica, just as Ethan had vowed. Though he was frailier now, relying on a cane for support, he remained determined to press on. "If not now, then when?" he said to Grace, a playful glint in his eye. The beach was a paradise for Liam. He laughed as the waves pursued him and crafted uneven sandcastles alongside Grace. Ethan reclined beneath the umbrella, observing them intently, absorbing every nuance. The sunlight danced in Grace's hair, the sand nestled between Liam's toes, and the sound of laughter floated on the gentle sea breeze. As the sun sank beneath the horizon, casting a warm glow over the water, Ethan gently grasped Grace's hand. "Promise me something," he said. "Anything. Keep dreaming, keep living, and make sure Liam remembers how deeply I loved him." Tears filled Grace's eyes. She gripped his hand firmly. "We won't forget. You gave us everything." "No," Ethan replied, a faint smile playing on his lips. "You provided me with something I had always longed for, a family." A few weeks later, returning to Boston, Ethan found himself unable to ascend the stairs. Grace relocated his room to the sunroom, adorning it with vibrant flowers, plush pillows, and a cozy ambience. Liam dedicated each afternoon to his company, sketching, diving into stories, or simply clasping his hand. On a brisk October morning, with the first frost gracing the windows and golden leaves dancing across the garden, Ethan beckoned Grace to join him. "I left something for you," he whispered. "In the coat, the one I wore that day." Tears streamed down Grace's cheeks, yet she nodded. "I know we'll find it." That night, with Liam asleep beside him and Bear curled up at the foot of the bed, Ethan gazed out at the moonlit garden one last time. A smile graced his lips, and then, in tranquility, he closed his eyes. The house was quiet the next day, not filled with sorrow, but with a sense of reverence. Grace and Liam discovered the gray coat hidden in the distant corner of the closet. Within its pocket lay an envelope. Inside, they found a tattered medical file accompanied by a handwritten note, the words hastily inscribed in unsteady handwriting. "I appreciate the 18 months of genuine experiences you've provided me. I was happy. Take care of each other." Grace pressed the note to her heart, tears streaming down her face, not from sorrow, but from a love so profound it ached. 10 years later, Dr. Liam Miller, a celebrated heart surgeon, found himself in his office in downtown Boston. Snowflakes danced outside, reminiscent of the day he first encountered Ethan. On his shelf rested 2 photographs, one of his mother, Grace, and another of a beaming man in a long coat, Ethan Whitmore, accompanied by a knock on the door. "Doctor, your next patient is here," the nurse announced. Liam nodded, then looked at the photo. "Let's do something good today, Uncle Ethan," he murmured. "What emotions stirred within you as you read this tale?" Did it resonate with your heart as deeply as it did with ours? If you believe love can change a life, drop a red heart in the comments below. We would be eager to hear. What aspect touched your feelings? Do you think that a stranger's kindness can alter the course of someone's life? Would you be willing to open your heart like Ethan did? Feel free to like, share, and comment. If this narrative has brought to your attention that often the most shattered individuals are those who gift us the most exquisite conclusions,